in many of our Muslim societies, there's a phenomenon that exists where inside that culture, if you do not fast the month of Ramadan, it is almost as if, or maybe it is as if you are a kafir. It is as if you are a disbeliever. In many of our societies, to this day, it is still completely unacceptable that someone does not fast the month of Ramadan. But unfortunately, that same emphasis and that same understanding is not given to the Salat. If you do not fast Ramadan, as I said, it is as if you are outside of the community. But if you do not pray 5 times a day, in many of our societies, at least in some of the subcultures, it's almost as if this is understandable and this is acceptable. You are still one of us, a Muslim, and it's not like you didn't fast the month of Ramadan. And yet when we see the words of the Prophet ﷺ, the very strong words that the Prophet ﷺ gave for the Salat, which in reality we do not have the same kind of words from the Prophet ﷺ or from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala concerning the fast of Ramadan. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ بَيْنَ الرَّجُلِ وَبَيْنَ الشِّرْكِ وَالْكُفْرِ تَرْكِ الصَّلَاةِ. The Prophet ﷺ said, between an individual and as-shirk, the shirk and the kufr is leaving the salat. The Prophet ﷺ also said, الْعَهْدُ الَّذِي بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَهُمُ الصَّلَاةِ وَمَنْ تَرَكَهَا فَقَدْ كَفَرَ. The Prophet ﷺ also said, the covenant, the pact that is between us and them that differs us from them, meaning the disbelievers, is the salat. And whoever leaves it has committed kufr, has committed an act of disbelief. And it is based on these kind of narrations and other evidence that some of the ulama, you can say maybe many of the ulama, say that if someone does not perform the 5 daily prayers, then actually he's left the fold of Islam. He's outside of the fold of Islam. This is not a minor statement. In fact, this is probably the view that is closest to these words of the Prophet. And even among those ulama who say that leaving the salat is not the kind of kufr that takes one out of the fold of Islam, everyone agrees. All of our ulama, alhamdulillah, throughout the history, have agreed that leaving the salat is a very dangerous thing for the iman, for the state of a believer. And so therefore it is very important for us to start to give the salat the kind of emphasis that we give the month of Ramadan. Because actually in the Sharia, as we said, the statements are actually stronger with respect to the salat than they are with respect to the month of Ramadan. So if any of us in reality is not performing the 5 daily prayers, if any of us has relatives or friends that we know, and probably all of us do, unfortunately, if any of us know these people who are not performing the 5 daily salawat, it is incumbent upon us to make nasiha to them, to make them understand and realize how dangerous what they're doing is. And it's probably much more dangerous than even leaving the fast of Ramadan that probably all of them took part in. Also during the month of Ramadan, in almost every khutbah before the Ramadan, during Ramadan, the different khatiras during the month, sometimes even the Eid prayer, the Eid khutbah, we are reminded often of the verse in the Quran in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to us about the salat, about the siyam, and mentions one of the goal and the purpose behind the siyam. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, kutiba alaykum as-siyam, kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum, la'allakum tattaqun. In which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Oh, you who believe, fasting has been prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ." In order that you may attain taqwa. And so we emphasize the fact that in Ramadan there is a goal, there is a purpose behind it, and we should think about whether or not we are meeting that goal and purpose. However, many times we ignore that fact with respect to the salat. And we don't think about the fact that also the salat should not be just something mechanical. We go into it, we make some movements, and we leave it without it having any effect upon us. Without there being no difference in us. When we look to the Quran, for example, and we see some of the verses that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about the salat, we see that also the salat should have an effect upon us. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the salat repels, should keep people away from al-fahsha and munkar, all kinds of evil, all kinds of illicit actions. What is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying here? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us that the salat should have an effect upon us. When we come out of the salat, and we're in between the two salawat, or the different salawat, there should be some effect of that standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that should continue outside of the salat. And this is in fact maybe one of the signs of whether or not we are getting from the salat, like when we talk about the siyam, whether or not we are getting from the salat what we should be getting from the salat. The whole character of an individual, should be affected by the fact that he is from those people who perform the salah. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us and says in the Quran, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ خُلِقَ هَلُوعًا إِذَا مَسَّهُ الشَّرُّ جَزُوعًا وَإِذَا مَسَّهُ الْخَيْرُ مَنُوعًا إلا المصلين الذين هم على صلاتهم دائمون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is describing human beings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that mankind was created very impatient. He is discontented when evil touches him, and he is niggardly when good comes to him. Except, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying this is how humans are, except for whom? Except for those people who perform the prayer. إِلَّا الْمُصَلِّينَ. Those people who perform the prayer, those who are constant in their prayer. This prayer has an effect on them. And so when we think about the salat, when we think about what we're doing 5 times a day, we should be realizing the fact that if the salat If the salat is not having much of an effect upon us, then maybe there's something wrong with our salat. And in the same way that we are often reminded during the month of Ramadan that many people get nothing from their fast except thirst and hunger. In the same way, the Prophet ﷺ has told us about the salat. إن الرجل ينصرف وما كتب له إلا عشر صلاة تسعها ثمنها سبعها سدسها خمسها ربعها ثلثها نصفها. The Prophet ﷺ told us that someone may leave from the salat, the individual may leave from the salat and recorded for him, written for him, for that salat is only 1/10 of it, or 1/9, or 1/8, or 1/7, or 1/6, or 1/5, or 1/4, or 1/3, or 1/2.